What's up everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be jumping back into the field of optics. Today we'll be checking out the Athlon Talos BTR Gen 2 fixed 10X. And we'll see how this does on my fancy dancy AR-10. All right, let's get into it. So today's scope we'll be looking at is a fixed 10x magnification in second focal plane. And that means the magnification is at a constant 10x. And second focal plane, not sure why they highlight that for a fixed magnified optic, but usually means the reticle does not change size as you zoom in and out. And this is by far the most popular optic type. But we made an entire video on first focal plane versus second focal plane if you want more information on which one you'd prefer. And I'll link that up here somewhere. But next, let's get a refresher onto who Athlon is. Our team has known of Athlon for a bit, ever since Joe challenged everyone that he could build a cheap 1,000 yard gun. Yeah, he chose a $300 Athlon optic to put on top of that thing. And I think it got boring for him to just consistently hit steel at 1,000 yards with an Athlon optic. I think his total cost was like $1,300 and the scope was probably the most expensive part of that. Now, Athlon is a US sports optics company based out of Kansas. They design and engineer their optics, then have strategic partners around the world that bring the Athlon creations to life. Now, Athlon also has some very stringent QC and in-house controls that they manage, and that makes them very confident in offering their lifetime warranties. And honestly, with all the testing that I've done, I feel pretty confident that these things are going to hold up pretty much any condition that I'm going to throw them in. Joe's talked about being willing to shoot his Athlon optic if he finds a comparable optic that's better. Hasn't been able to yet. Now, this is my second jump into Athlon for reviews, and so far I've been pleased with their build quality and overall performance. Now, the Talos series of optics is their more budget-friendly optics, and it seems to be designed for the everyday shooter who is on a budget but still wants great quality and good performance. Now, today we'll give it a good once-over and we'll start off by doing an unboxing. Then we'll take a look at the optic up close. Now, I would have shown you a video of me mounting it, but I think YouTube would get all angry, and honestly, the video footage was corrupted anyways, so you'll just have to see it after it's mounted. Just know that if you have this combo of Warren and Athlon, Warren tells you to torque to the scope manufacturer's recommendations, and Athlon tells you to follow the mounts specifications. Now, Warren has a maximum torque setting of 25 inch-pounds, so I'd go, I don't know, 15 to 20 in that range, and you'll probably be fine. Now, we really don't have tests set up for a fixed magnified optic, and there's no illumination, but we'll take a look at glass clarity, the turrets, and the reticle, and then wrap it up with some pros and cons like normal. But first, let's get it on the bench and open it up. All right, next, let's mount it on the gun. Now, I don't have a fancy self-leveling $300 scope mount. I just use this scope leveling tool I bought on Amazon, and it works great. Just make sure you remove the tool before you torque everything down. Now, there's scope mounts anywhere from cheapo $20 Amazon ones all the way up to $400 or $500 ones. Warren isn't the cheapest, but it's one that I probably like the most. So find one that fits your budget and roll with that. Installing it all into the mount was a breeze, and I got everything just barely snug, got my eye relief perfect, and locked it all down, mounted it to my 18-inch AR-10 chambered in 308. Now, I went with the MIL Reticle, the Athlon APRS, I think is the reticle name. And I like it because it's not really for a specific caliber. You can use it on anything, hence putting on the 308 here. As you can see, the reticle has stadia lines at the 3, 6, and 9 o'clock, similar to other optics we've seen in the past that are designed to draw your eye to the center, aid in tracking the center reticle. Now, one thing of note, the stadia lines do extend all the way out to the outer ring. You'll also see that the reticle has subtensions rising up from the center dot, but there's not a stadia line that goes to the edge. You may not have as much information as you do with other scopes, but I see some perks here that I like. Enough information to help you with tracking targets at variable distances, but not so crowded that you get confused at which of the 300 dots you're looking at. Now, the reticle is relatively basic in some aspects, and I like that. You have bullet drop compensation, but in order for this to work, you need to know your bullet drop for your projectile. Now, this may get too nerdy for some of you, but basically you have to know some math. For example, I'm shooting 168 grain Sierra Match Kings, which I know have a bullet drop of 8.92 inches at 300 yards. 1 mil is 3.6 inches at 100 yards, so 300 yards is 10.8 inches. So take the 8.92 bullet drop, divide it by your mil, 10.8, and you get 0.83 mils. So holding the 0.8 mil hash at 300 yards without wind, I should be able to engage a target. Now here we see a target at 250 yards. I know it's less than the 0.8 hash mark, so I put that at the bottom of the gun and engage. There you go. Math works. Now, it seems like a lot of work, but I actually really enjoy this, engaging a different part of my brain that I haven't usually done when shooting. So just take the information that you're gathering while you're shooting, and then you write it down, have your dope card or data of previous engagement, then just reference that in the future. Now, that's the reticle in a nutshell, so let's take a look at glass clarity next. And I think the glass clarity on this is fine. Shooting out to 450 yards was doable. Now, I'm not going to say it was easy for me, but it was easy to see the target. And my goal now is to get it out again and see if I can engage targets out to 1,000 yards. This is my first time messing with a MIL reticle in years, but I feel like I quickly got the hang of it and was able to consistently engage between 200 and 450 yards. Now, I actually really enjoyed this, not having to rely on Christmas trees and caliber specific reticles, although I still like those, don't get me wrong. But like I said, this just worked out a different part of my brain that I'm not used to working out. All right, last thing I want to touch on is the turrets. Using these to zero the optic was super easy. We were able to get this zeroed at 100 yards, and then you can lock your zero stop. Now, we did this at the range and I didn't have my camera out to record it, but you remove this single screw and remove the turret knob, loosen the side screws, set the locking plate to 0, then just tighten everything back up. Regardless, the turrets themselves are super nice with tactile clicks. And on this optic, it's 1/10 of a mil per click. And again, this was a learning curve or a relearning curve, but once I got the hang of it, it was fine. This was a stereotypical man. Nah, I don't need instructions. Then I'm out of the range thinking, man, I wish I brought the instructions with me. They were actually very helpful. But that's it for the overview of this scope. Let's get into my pros and cons. My first pro would have to be the glass clarity. Now, granted, I only went out to 450 yards, but being able to see that 12-inch gong at that distance pretty clear was surprising for me. We'll see how this does when we go out to 1,000. All right, next pro, the ease of use. And I'm not talking about using math and all the subtension stuff. I mean that there's no bells and whistles, no illumination knob I have to deal with, no Christmas tree reticle. Again, as much as I like those, it was kind of refreshing to see kind of a blank reticle. I don't have to worry about carrying extra batteries for the illumination setting. It's not full of 300 small dots. Yeah, the subtensions can take some time getting used to, but that's not that hard. Last pro, the price. Now, the MSRP of this thing is under 400 bucks, but you could regularly find this on sale for much lower than that. But with Black Friday coming up, you may be able to snag it for a steal. All right, cons. And it's not overly terrible, but of all the 10x fixed magnified optics that I found, this one's the heaviest by about 1/4 to 1/2 pound, which on an AR-10 could matter. To give you some context, I had a primary arms 2.5 to 10x scope on this previously, and that scope is 2 ounces lighter. But this Athlon scope is like half the price of that primary arm, so I guess you choose. All in all, I'm very impressed with this budget-minded scope. And I hope to be able to use it to engage out to 1,000 yards in the future. But that's it for me, folks. I'd like to say thanks to our Patreons and our YouTube members. You guys make it possible for us to get this cool stuff to show off to you. We truly appreciate the support. And thanks to everyone else that likes, comments, and subscribes. Comment down below. Let me know what you think of the Athlon Talos 10x magnified optic, and if it's something you put on your gun. All right, guys. Catch you later.